Dui de la fin ban mo rong dang ka kwa ka chuyen, voi noi dung duok viet dai han. Them chi teat cam suck, mo taken vat, doi thoi tu neen, sui gi noi tom. Va kak koen kok kich tin kio di de tang chu, salvias uc hot. Tua jung gwin kot trien, boi can, tin nan vat moi va ka truck gok, and hung lam cho ka trien di han, song dong han, fu hop voi nu voi dok lon tuoi, gon gu tu neen, gon gue, kong kwa slang. Du dai koang 55.000 to 60.000 ky2. It was 3:17 a.m. when the first sledgehammer struck stone. The sound jolted me awake like a gunshot in the quiet mountain night. Sharp, metallic, final. I stumbled to the window in my bare feet and saw the floodlights cutting through the dark. A crew of 5 men in dark jackets swung heavy tools at my grandfather's bridge. The old granite arch, built stone by hand in 1943, groaned under each blow. Margaret Harrington stood on the far shore, arms folded, designer coat buttoned against the early October chill, directing them as if she were overseeing a landscaping project instead of dismantling 80 years of family history. I am Thomas Harlan. 30 years as a civil engineer working on dams, bridges, and water systems across Colorado and Wyoming had taught me patience and precision. But nothing prepares you for watching strangers destroy something your grandfather built during the Depression with nothing but a pickaxe, a level, and sheer stubborn will. That bridge wasn't just a crossing over the narrows of Pine Ridge Lake. It was where my father taught me to cast a fly rod at dawn, where I carved my initials beside my grandfather's in 1990, and where my son Daniel added his in 2015, laughing as the chisel slipped and left a crooked line. It was where we carried my father's ashes in a simple cedar box and let the wind take them downstream on a gray October morning just like this one. Margaret had been in Pine Ridge Estates for 3 years. She arrived with a $2.4 million check, a corporate law resume, and the unshakable belief that money could rearrange history. The gated community of 48 homes had sprung up around the North Shore like expensive mushrooms after rain. Most owners were weekend people from Denver, tech executives, surgeons, real estate investors, who wanted the postcard view without the postcard's backstory. To them, the lake was scenery. To me, it was memory, held in place by a dam my grandfather had designed and built under a federal wartime permit. The bridge, she claimed, ruined her sight line from the great room of her lakefront house. It also created a navigation hazard for her new yacht, which cost more than my entire property. County engineers had inspected it twice and declared it not only safe, but exceptionally well built, stronger than most structures permitted today. That didn't matter. Margaret hired lawyers who charged $800 an hour to draft letters explaining why an 80-year-old family heirloom was suddenly a public danger. The harassment began quietly. A cease and desist letter arrived on a Tuesday. Each visit required me to hire my own engineer to rebut their findings. My attorney, Ellen Whitaker, charged $400 just to write a response letter. 3 months in, I had spent $12,000 defending a bridge that had never asked for my help. One rainy Thursday evening, I finally climbed the attic stairs and pulled down the old shoebox my father had always kept near the rafters. He used to say, "The important things are in the papers, Tommy. Don't wait till I'm gone to read them." I had waited. Inside were tax receipts, birth certificates, a yellowed mining claim from 1938, and one single sheet of federal letterhead dated March 15, 1943. The seal was still crisp. The language was unmistakable. In consideration of wartime infrastructure needs, the Harlan family is granted exclusive and perpetual authority for the construction, operation, and maintenance of water control facilities at Pine Ridge Reservoir, including regulation of water flow, level control, and emergency drainage procedures. Perpetual. Exclusive. No expiration. No review by future counties or HOAs. The attached technical drawings showed a sophisticated system: hand crank gates, overflow channels, redundant release valves, engineered to empty the entire reservoir in under 72 hours without downstream flooding. My grandfather hadn't just built a dam. He had built a failsafe. Every dock, every boathouse, every $1 million mortgage in Pine Ridge Estates rested on water levels my family had quietly maintained for 80 years. They had no idea. Margaret's campaign grew uglier. One morning, I found the bridge railings loosened with power tools, bolts lying neatly on the stones like someone had taken them out for cleaning. The next week, fresh chisel marks scarred the support pillars. Security cameras caught HOA maintenance boats deliberately ramming the pilings 5 times in broad daylight. When I confronted Margaret with the footage, she smiled thinly and said, "File a claim with our insurance." "Oh wait, you don't have coverage anymore, do you?" My policy had been canceled the week before. The agent stammered something about increased liability concerns. 2 phone calls later, I learned Margaret's brother-in-law sat on the insurance company's risk board. He had flagged my account as high risk and pushed for termination. The community fractured. Ruth Callahan, 81, who had walked the bridge every morning since the Eisenhower years, stopped her daily strolls. "I don't want to give them more excuses, dear," she whispered when I asked. Other old-timers rallied quietly, bringing me coffee, offering to testify, sharing stories of the lake before the mansions arrived. The newcomers, though, saw only rising property values and unobstructed views. Then Ruth appeared at my door one foggy Saturday with a thick manila folder. "Your grandfather was a thorough man," she said, settling into my father's old armchair. As county clerk for 38 years, she had filed every important document that crossed her desk, including duplicate copies of the 1943 permit and the original dam construction records. He made me promise to keep these safe and only bring them out if the family was truly threatened. "Well, Thomas, I think the time has come." Court moved quickly. Margaret pushed an emergency safety ordinance through a closed HOA session I wasn't invited to. She arrived on my property with 2 private security guards and a freshly printed document declaring the bridge an immediate hazard. When I refused entry, one guard, built like a linebacker, tried to place me under citizen's arrest for obstructing community safety operations. My security camera captured every word. The clip went viral overnight. 75,000 views. Then 120. People from outside the valley began calling it the bridge that wouldn't fall. The judge granted the injunction. Demolition was scheduled for Monday. That night, I drove the rutted access road to the dam. The control shed smelled of machine oil and damp pine. The hand crank wheels were stiff from disuse. Harold Jenkins, a retired machinist who had helped my father service the system 20 years earlier, met me there at dawn. "Your granddad built this thing to survive anything," Harold said, wiping grease from his hands. "War, blackout, flood. You crank these gates 30% open, keep it steady, and you'll drop 18 feet in 3 days. No downstream flooding. Minimal silt disturbance if you monitor it right." I started Thursday morning at 6:45 a.m. 6 full turns on the main gate. A low, steady hiss of water began, controlled, deliberate. By Friday evening the lake was down 6 inches. Docks felt slightly higher. Boats sat a little shallower. Most people didn't notice yet. Monday morning the demolition crew rolled in. Margaret stood on the shore in a cream-colored coat, directing like a film producer. The crew's hydraulic hammers rang against the granite and bounced off. Concrete saws screamed and overheated. After 6 hours, they had chipped one decorative cornerstone. The foreman wiped sweat from his brow and told her, "Ma'am, this thing is built like a fortress. We're going to need bigger equipment and probably double the time. It's going to cost a fortune." Margaret's face flushed. "I don't care what it costs. That bridge is gone by Friday." By Friday, the lake had dropped 4 feet. Luxury boats rested in mud. Dock pilings stood exposed like old bones. Group chats exploded with questions. Dr. Laura Bennett, a pediatrician who lived 3 houses down, called me at 7:30 p.m. "Thomas," she said, voice trembling, "our dock is almost 3 feet higher than yesterday. The water's gone down overnight. Please tell me this isn't what you said you could do." I took a long breath. "Laura, gather anyone who wants to avoid a bigger problem. Community Center. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Saturday morning the room was packed. 47 homeowners, 3 news crews, Sheriff Daniels, Mayor Ellis, and a very pale Margaret Harrington. I walked to the front holding the 1943 permit. "My name is Thomas Harlan. My grandfather Elias built the dam that created this lake under a federal permit that still holds today. That permit gives my family exclusive authority to regulate water levels. Every inch of this lake you enjoy exists because we've maintained it for 80 years. I laid out the evidence folder by folder. The bribery attempt. Margaret had offered the county engineer $5,000 to alter his report. The recorded offer of $15,000 to an undercover investigator for accidents that would force me off the property. The witness intimidation. The conspiracy. Sheriff Daniels stepped forward. Margaret Harrington, you are under arrest for bribery, witness intimidation, and solicitation to commit arson. The handcuffs clicked shut. The room drew a collective breath. A federal water engineer from Denver confirmed the permit's supremacy. Environmental sensors I had placed showed stable water quality and fish adapting to the gradual change. I presented the terms. Declare the bridge a protected historic landmark. End all harassment of longtime residents. Establish a heritage preservation fund to support engineering scholarships for local students. In return, I would close the gates tomorrow morning. The lake would refill to normal levels within 72 hours. Laura Bennett stood up first, eyes shining. Thomas, I'm so sorry. We never understood what we were attacking. On behalf of everyone who didn't know, thank you for giving us a chance to make this right. The applause started slowly, then swelled. One by one people stood to speak, some apologizing, some condemning Margaret's tactics, others simply relieved. The bridge was renamed Elias Harlan Memorial Crossing. A bronze plaque was mounted on the cornerstone. Margaret received 18 months in federal prison. Her house sold at foreclosure for $1.3 million, half what she paid. The new owners, a retired schoolteacher and her veteran husband, walked across the bridge on their first day to shake my hand and ask if it was all right to fish from it. 6 months later, the lake is full again. Children cast lines from the stones where we carved our names. The Heritage Fund has awarded its first scholarship to Ruth Callahan's great-granddaughter, a bright 18-year-old studying environmental engineering. Community dinners now happen monthly, old families and newcomers sharing stories over potluck casseroles and coffee. Ruth published a small book of local history that has become required reading for anyone buying in Pine Ridge Estates. The bridge still stands, quiet, solid, enduring. Sometimes at dawn I walk out to the center span, feel the worn grooves under my boots, and listen to the water moving beneath. It reminds me that the best victories aren't won with force. They're won when people finally understand why some things are worth preserving, and why respect matters more than money ever could. If you've ever faced a situation where power seemed stacked against you, whether it was a difficult neighbor, an unfair bureaucracy, or just plain injustice, I'd like to hear your story. What did you do? Did you fight, walk away, or find another way? Do you think there's ever a moment when standing your ground crosses into something darker, or is protecting what matters always justified? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. Let's talk about fairness, consequences, and where the line falls between justice and revenge. Hai vong phim ban nai du dai, bahap dan han cho ban. Nu muon them chi tito fan now see you the 6 do. Noi tom nan vat, kan fa ka, huok hop song dong, see you noi ne.